skedaddle through this one. Chapter 2, Plato.
Oh yeah, Plato.
You want to read Disciple or Prabhupada?
Which one do you want to read? I'll read Disciple, I guess.
Okay.
All right.
Hey everybody, so we're back, Hamsa and I, and we are reading Beyond Illusion and Doubt, Chapter 2, Plato. So we'll be getting into... Wait, did we read Chapter 1? I think
Chapter 1.
We did? Okay. Just want to make sure I'm not losing my mind. We did Introduction and Chapter 1 in one setting?
We did 2 recordings, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure. Yeah, we did. Okay. Double checking myself. All right. So yeah, we're reading Chapter 2, Plato. So it's discussion between Prabhupada and his disciple and or disciples, I'm not sure as we go through, but about the theology that Plato, the belief system that Plato would preach, for lack of a better term, that was spreading, and just kind of discussing the ins and outs of it and what he feels is maybe sort of in line and what is not in line and with the
Vedic thought,
Vedic philosophy. So,
yeah.
We can go ahead and start there. Do you want to read just up through the disciples part? And I'll just read the bottom there.
Okay.
He'll read a disciple. I'll read as Prabhupada. We'll just go back and forth.
Okay.
That way they know who's saying what.
Chapter 2, Plato. Plato, 428 to 347 BC, was one of the most creative and influential thinkers in Western philosophy. The chief student of Socrates, he founded the Academy in Athens in 387 BC, beginning an institution that continued for almost 1,000 years and came to be known as the first European university. There are some striking similarities between Plato's ideal state and the one Krishna outlines in the Bhagavad Gita. But as Srila Prabhupada points out, Plato erred in his conception of the soul and of the goal of education. It's funny when I read about like Plato and was it Plato or Aristotle? Socrates. Socrates? Freaking Assassin's Creed Odyssey. You run around and you get to meet them characters.
I never played Odyssey. I really wanted to, but I spent $50 or $60 on the Egyptian one. And I really only played like probably maybe 20% of it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't really think I need to buy another $50, $60 game that I'm barely going to play. Like, even though I like it, I just don't realistically spend enough time. But they're really cool games. I like that. Papa actually sat with me, my granddad, and was like watching. And he was finding it interesting because, it's all actual like spots in Egypt.
Yeah.
They did a good job of like
they have an actual discovery
infrastructure and all of that. So you can go through real Egypt.
You're like no fighting or nothing. And you just go
fly through or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
That was really cool. Your Papa liked that aspect of it. He thought it was interesting.
Disciple. I think in the introduction it said the disciple was either Shamananda or...
They said a couple people that it would normally be, but I'm sure
All right.
can scroll back to that, or we can even put that in the description. That's what I should do. I should put that kind of stuff in the description so people can see.
Disciple. In the Republic, Plato's major work on political theory, Plato wrote that society can enjoy prosperity and harmony only if it places people in working categories or classes according to their natural abilities. He thought that people should find out their natural abilities and use those abilities to their fullest capacity, as administrators, as military men, or as craftsmen. Most important, the head of state should not be an average or mediocre man. Instead, society should be led by a very wise and good man, a philosopher king, Yudhisthira, or by a group of very wise and good men. Yeah, if only today that was the case.
Your mic is on, right? I just want to double check.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We're running. All right, so Prabhupada replies, this idea appears to be taken from the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says that the ideal society has 4 divisions: Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. These divisions come about by the influence of the modes of nature. Everyone, both in human society and in animal society, is influenced by the modes of material nature: Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun, or goodness, passion, and ignorance. By scientifically classifying men according to these qualities, society can become perfect. But if we place a man in the mode of ignorance in a philosopher's post, or put a philosopher to work as an ordinary laborer, havoc will result, which is what's happening now. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that the Brahmanas, the most intelligent men who are interested in transcendental knowledge and philosophy, should be given the topmost posts, and under their instructions, the Kshatriyas should work. The administrators should see that there is law and order and that everyone is doing his duty. The next section is the productive class, the Vaishyas, who engage in agriculture and cow protection.
So farmers and businessmen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Brahmanas are given the topmost posts, okay. And then Kshatriyas are, under their instructions, the Kshatriyas, follow their guidance for their warrior. Okay, got it. I got a little confused there for some reason. The next section is the productive class, the Vaishyas, who engage in agriculture and cow protection. And finally, there are the Sudras, common laborers who help the other sections. This is Vedic civilization. People living simply on agriculture and cow protection. If you have enough milk, grain, fruits, and vegetables, you can live very nicely. The Srimad Bhagavatam compares the 4 divisions of society to the different parts of the body: the head, the arms, the belly, and the legs. Just as all parts of the body cooperate to keep the body fit, in the ideal state, all sections of society cooperate under the leadership of the Brahmanas. Comparatively, the head is the most important part of the body, since it gives directions to the other parts. Similarly, the ideal state functions under the directions of the Brahmanas, who are not personally interested in political affairs or administration because they have a higher duty. At present, this Krishna consciousness movement is training Brahmanas. If the administrators take our advice and conduct the state in a Krishna conscious way, there will be an ideal society throughout the world.
How does modern society differ from the Vedic ideal?
Now there is large-scale industrialization, which means exploitation of one person by another. Such industry was unknown in Vedic civilization. It was unnecessary. In addition, modern civilization has taken to slaughtering and eating animals, which is barbarous. It is not even human. In Vedic civilization, when a person was unfit to rule, he was deposed. For instance, King Vena proved to be an unfit king. He was simply interested in hunting. Of course, Kshatriyas are allowed to hunt. Yeah, right now, yeah.
God.
King Vena proved to be an unfit king. He was simply interested in hunting. Of course, Kshatriyas are allowed to hunt, but not whimsically. They are not allowed to kill many birds and beasts unnecessarily, as King Vena was doing, and as people do today. At that time, the intelligent Brahmanas objected and immediately killed him with a curse. Formerly, the Brahmanas had so much power that they could kill simply by cursing. Weapons were unnecessary. At present, however, because the head of the social body is missing, it is a dead body. The head is very important, and our Krishna consciousness movement is attempting to create some Brahmanas who will form the head of society. Then the administrators will be able to rule very nicely under the instructions of the philosophers and theologians. That is, under the instructions of God-conscious people. A God-conscious Brahmana would never advise opening slaughterhouses. But now, the many rascals heading the government allow animal slaughter. When Maharaj Parikshit saw a degraded man trying to kill a cow, he immediately drew his sword and said, "Who are you? Why are you trying to kill this cow?" He was a real king. Nowadays, unqualified men have taken the presidential post, and although they may pose themselves as very religious, they are simply rascals. Why? Because under their noses, thousands of cows are being killed while they collect a good salary. Any leader who is at all religious should resign his post in protest if cow slaughter goes on under his rule. Since people do not know that these administrators are rascals, they are suffering. And the people are also rascals because they are voting for these bigger rascals. It is Plato's view that the government should be ideal, and this is the ideal. The saintly philosophers should be at the head of the state. According to their advice, the politicians should rule. Under the protection of the politicians, the productive class should protect the cows and provide the necessities of life, and the laborer class should help. This is the scientific division of society that Krishna advocates in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 13. Chaturvarnyam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhagasha. According to the 3 modes of material nature and the work ascribed to them, the 4 divisions of human society were created by me. That was the translation to what I just read. That wasn't clear.
Plato also observed social divisions. However, he advocated 3 divisions. One class consisted of the guardians, men of wisdom who governed society. Another class consisted of the warriors, who were courageous and who protected the society. And the third class consisted of the artisans, who performed their service obediently and worked only to satisfy their appetites.
Yes, human society does have this threefold division also. The first class man is in the mode of goodness, the second class man is in the mode of passion, and the third class man is in the mode of ignorance.
Plato's understanding of the social order was based on his observation that man has a threefold division of intelligence, courage, and appetite. He said that the soul has these three qualities.
That is a mistake. The soul does not have any material qualities. The soul is pure, but because of his contact with the different qualities of material nature, he is dressed in various bodies. This Krishna consciousness movement aims at removing this material dress. Our first instruction is, quote, "You are not this body," end quote. It appears that in his practical understanding, Plato identified the soul with the bodily dress, and that does not show very good intelligence.
Plato believed that man's position is marginal between matter and spirit, and therefore he also stressed the development of the body. He thought that everyone should be educated from an early age, and that part of that education should be gymnastics to keep the body fit.
This means that in practice, Plato very strongly identified the self as the body. What was Plato's idea of education?
To awaken the student to his natural position, whatever his natural abilities or talents are.
And what is that natural position?
The position of moral goodness. In other words, Plato thought everyone should be educated to work in whatever way is best suited to awaken his natural moral goodness.
But moral goodness is not enough, because simple morality will not satisfy the soul. One has to go above morality, to Krishna consciousness. Of course, in this material world, morality is taken as the highest principle. But there is another platform, which is called the transcendental, Vasudeva platform. Man's highest perfection is on that platform, and this is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. However, because Western philosophers have no information on the Vasudeva platform, they consider the material mode of goodness to be the highest perfection and the end of morality. But in this world, even moral goodness is infected by the lower modes of ignorance and passion. You cannot find pure goodness, Suddha Sattva, in this material world, because pure goodness is the transcendental platform. To come to the platform of pure goodness, which is the ideal, one has to undergo austerities. Tapasa brahmacharya charyena samena cha damena cha. One has to practice celibacy and control the mind and senses. If one has money, one should distribute it in charity. Also, one should always be very clean. In this way, one can rise to the platform of pure goodness. There is another process for coming to the platform of pure goodness, and that is Krishna consciousness. If one becomes Krishna conscious, all good qualities automatically develop in him. Automatically, he leads a life of celibacy, controls his mind and senses, and has a charitable disposition. In this age of Kali, people cannot possibly be trained to engage in austerity. Formerly, a brahmachari would undergo austere training. Even though he might be from a royal or learned family, a brahmachari would humble himself and serve the spiritual master as a menial servant. He would immediately do whatever the spiritual master ordered. The brahmachari would beg alms from door to door and bring them to the spiritual master, claiming nothing for himself. Whatever he earned, he would give to the spiritual master, because the spiritual master would not spoil the money by spending it for sense gratification. He would use it for Krishna. This is austerity. The brahmachari would also observe celibacy, and because he followed the directions of the spiritual master, his mind and senses were controlled. Today, however, this austerity is very difficult to follow. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given the process of taking to Krishna consciousness directly. In this case, one needs simply chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and follow the regulative principles given by the spiritual master. Then, one immediately rises to the platform of pure goodness.
Plato thought the state should train citizens to be virtuous. His system of education went like this. For the first 3 years of life, the child should play and strengthen his body. From 3 to 6, the child should learn religious stories. From 7 to 10, he should learn gymnastics. From 10 to 13, reading and writing. From 14 to 16, poetry and music. From 16 to 18, mathematics. And from 18 to 20, he should undergo military drill. From 20 to 35, those who are scientific and philosophical should remain in school and continue learning, and the warriors should engage in military exercises.
Is this educational program for all men, or are there different types of education for different men?
No, this is for everyone.
This is not very good. If a boy is intelligent and inclined to philosophy and theology, why should he be forced to undergo military training?
Well, Plato said that everyone should undergo 2 years of military drill.
But why should someone waste 2 years? No one should waste even 2 days. This is nonsense. Imperfect ideas.
Plato said this type of education reveals what category a person belongs to. He had the right idea that one belongs to a particular class according to his qualification.
Yes, that we also say, but we disagree that everyone should go through the same training. The spiritual master should judge the tendency or disposition of the student at the start of his education. He should be able to see whether the boy is fit for military training, administration, or philosophy, and then he should fully train the boy according to his particular tendency. If one is naturally inclined to philosophical study, why should he waste his time in the military? And if one is naturally inclined to military training, why should he waste his time with other things? Arjuna belonged to a Kshatriya family. He and his brothers were never trained as philosophers. Dronacharya was their master and teacher, and although he was a Brahmana, he taught them Dhanurveda, not Brahma Vidya. Brahma Vidya is the theistic philosophy. No one should be trained in everything. That is a waste of time. If one is inclined toward production, business, or agriculture, he should be trained in those fields. If one is philosophical, If one is philosophical, he should be trained as a philosopher. If one is militaristic, he should be trained as a warrior. And if one has ordinary ability, he should remain a Sudra, or a laborer. This is stated by Narada Muni in Srimad Bhagavatam, Yasya Yalakshanam Proktam. The 4 classes of society are recognized by their symptoms and qualifications. Narada Muni also says that one should be selected for training according to his qualifications. Even if one is born in a Brahmana family, he should be considered a Sudra if his qualifications are those of a Sudra. And if one is born in a Sudra family, he should be accepted as a Brahmana if his symptoms are Brahminical. The spiritual master should be expert enough to recognize the tendencies of the student and immediately train them in that line. This is perfect education.
Dang. Plato believed that the student's natural tendency wouldn't come out unless he practiced everything.
No, that is wrong. Because the soul is continuous, and therefore everyone has some tendency from his previous birth. I think Plato did not realize this continuity of the soul from body to body. According to the Vedic culture, immediately after a boy's birth, astrologers should calculate what category he belongs to. Astrology can help if there is a first-class astrologer. Such an astrologer can tell what line a boy is coming from and how he should be trained. Plato's method of education was imperfect because it was based on speculation.
Plato observed that a particular combination of the 3 modes of nature is acting in each individual.
Then why did he say that everyone should be trained in the same way?
He is like a razor blade. Oh, God.
Like, really?
Because he claimed that the person's natural ability will not manifest unless he is given a chance to try everything. He saw that some people listen primarily to their intelligence, and he said that they are governed by the head. He saw that some people have an aggressive disposition, and he said such courageous types are governed by the heart, by passion. And he saw that some people who are inferior simply want to feed their appetite. He said these people are animalistic, and he believed that they are governed by the liver.
That is not a perfect description. Everyone has a liver, a heart, and all the bodily limbs. Whether one is in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance depends on one's training and on the qualities he acquired during his previous life. According to the Vedic process, at birth one is immediately given a classification. Psychological and physical symptoms are considered and generally it is ascertained from birth that a child has a particular tendency. However, this tendency may change according to circumstances, and if one does not fulfill his assigned role, he can be transferred to another class. One may have had Brahminical training in a previous life, and he may exhibit Brahminical symptoms in this life, but one should not think that because he has taken birth in a Brahmana family, he is automatically a Brahmana. A person may be born in a Brahmana family and be a Sudra. It is a question not of birth, but of qualification.
Plato also believed that one must qualify for his post. Excuse me. His system of government was very democratic. He thought that everyone should be given a chance to occupy the different posts.
Actually, we are the most democratic because we are giving everyone a chance to become a first-class Brahmana. The Krishna consciousness movement is giving even the lowest member of society a chance to become a Brahmana by becoming Krishna conscious. Chandalopi dvija shreshto hari bhakti prayayana. Although one may be born in a family of chandalas.
Chandalas are
dog
like
eaters,
like
right?
Like they
very
eat the
low,
very low class. Yeah.
He can be elevated to the highest position. Krishna says that everyone can go back home, back to Godhead. Samoham sarva bhuteshu. I am equal to everyone. Everyone can come to me. There is no hindrance.
That's from Bhagavad Gita, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is the purpose of the social orders in the state government?
The ultimate purpose is to make everyone Krishna conscious. That is the perfection of life, and the entire social structure should be modeled with this aim in view. Of course, not everyone can become fully Krishna conscious in one lifetime, just as not all students in a university can attain the PhD degree in one attempt. But the idea of perfection is to pass the PhD examination, and therefore the PhD courses should be maintained. Similarly, an institution like this Krishna consciousness movement should be maintained so that at least some people can attain the ultimate goal, Krishna consciousness, and so that everyone can approach it.
So the goal of the state government should be to help everyone become Krishna conscious, or God conscious. Yeah.
Yes, Krishna consciousness is the highest goal. Therefore, everyone should help this movement and take advantage of it. Regardless of his work, everyone can come to the temple. The instructions are for everyone, and prasadam is distributed to everyone. Therefore, there is no difficulty. Everyone can contribute to this Krishna consciousness movement. Prasadam is food.
Food that's been offered to
so
God.
He's saying everyone gets to eat. That's gotten a lot of people too. Good prasadam. Therefore, there is no difficulty. Everyone can contribute to this Krishna consciousness movement. The Brahmanas can contribute their intelligence. The Kshatriyas, their charity. The Vaishyas, their grain, milk, fruits, and flowers. And the Sudras, their bodily service. By such joint effort, everyone can reach the same goal, Krishna consciousness, the perfection of life.
In a very famous allegory in the Republic, Plato describes representatives of humanity chained in a dark cave and able to see only shadows cast by the light of a fire. One person breaks free and sees the outside world, and he returns to the cave to tell the people that they are living in darkness, but the cave dwellers consider him crazy.
This is just like our story of Dr. Frog. He had never gone out of his dark well, so he thought, here is everything. When he was informed about the vast Atlantic Ocean, he could not conceive of a body of water so expansive. Similarly, those who are in the dark well of this material world cannot conceive of the light outside in the spiritual world. But that world is a fact. Suppose someone has fallen into a well, and he cries out, I have fallen into this well. Please save me. Then a man outside drops down a rope and calls, just catch hold of the rope and I will pull you out. But no, the fallen man has no faith in the man outside and does not catch hold of the rope. Similarly, we are all telling everyone in the material world, you are suffering. Just take up this Krishna consciousness and all of your suffering will be relieved. Unfortunately, people refuse to catch hold of the rope, or they do not even admit they are suffering. But one who is fortunate will catch hold of the rope of Krishna consciousness, and then the spiritual master will help him out of this dark world of suffering and bring him to the illuminated, happy world of Krishna consciousness. Thus ends chapter 2.
Dude,
Very good.
Prabhupada, man.
That was wonderful. I mean, that was interesting. I like when we read it all the way through. We can talk a little bit before we close up the shop, but I figure that's the way the conversation flows.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's very true. I mean, you tend to see that with like kids. I know, like when we're babies, they put like the money, the book, and the what's the other thing? Money book,
musical instrument.
Yeah, cartels or something, whatever symbols. And my mom apparently crawled over to them and slammed her hand down on the book and the money at the same time, one hand for each. She's like, I'm gonna have it all.
Oh my God.
I don't think they did it for me, so I don't know.
We did it for Shruti. Shruti picked the money, I think, and Veda picked the book,
nice.
Which is nice. I mean, Shruti did. I want to say she did the money.
Yeah.
But I say nice just because his name's Vedacharya.
Yeah.
Which means teacher of the Vedas. So I thought it was kind of
really
funny
cool
that he picked the book.
He picked the book.
But yeah, I mean, but see, the funny thing is, like, Veda is like, I mean, I read to Shruti at night as well, but she might have picked the musical instrument. Damn, now I can't remember. I'll have to ask Shar, but she is just not like, their dispositions are different. Just like he's saying in there, exactly. No two kids are the same. Some kids like math, some kids like music. Shruti loves singing and dancing.
Yeah.
Veda, he does it, but not so much. He likes playing with his toys. He's more like, you know, I guess you could say like warrior-like. Like he's very intense. Like, you know, and it just makes sense that, you know, if we, I think basically what I took away from that was that the major issue with society is that it's not being, we have unqualified people trying to do jobs that they are not fit for, like being a leader or being a teacher, right? Like how many high school, like what's her name, Mrs. H, or not Mrs. H, the other, I think she taught sociology. Her name was Mrs.
Hummel?
Not Mrs. Hummel.
I don't know.
But dude, she was like a hardcore alcoholic. She'd come in all the time, like freaking gorked out of her mind, or like hung over as hell, like just a totally
all kinds of teachers
awful teacher.
Aren't meant to be teachers. It's just what they decided to do for some reason.
If the kids are being taught by people that are not actually in it because they care about the kids and they care about the education, then the kids are leaving without actually taking away, like, when you're a kid and you have nothing to do other than go to school, that's when you should be absorbing things. Like, you're going to use that for the rest of your life.
Yeah, for sure.
But we don't set kids up for success. We get them through. It's basically a daycare center so the parents can go to work and just slave away at jobs so that they can barely make their, you know, their mortgages and their rent payments. And everyone's living paycheck to paycheck for the most part, just trying to survive and struggle because the administrators are taking advantage of everyone. They're overtaxing people. They're underpaying them. And then the teachers, the brahmanas who are supposed to be holding everyone accountable, they're not doing their job. They're not ensuring people are getting a proper education. They're not ensuring to give good advice to the administrators. And the administrators are so arrogant and proud that when good advice does come to them, right? Like, oh, hey, maybe we should wear masks. There's a pandemic going around. Oh, you're going to disregard good advice. So it's just like all the way through and through. It's, you know, and amazingly, what he's saying, God consciousness, is it is a one-stop shop. Like, it can address the issues in society. If everyone turned inward, looked at their own self, tried to do a little bit of like soul searching, and really like, if we understand how the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, the mode of ignorance affects our life, then we can kind of see when our actions are being guided by ignorance, when our actions are being guided by passion, when our actions are being guided by goodness. Live in a way that's conducive with those modes. So we try to live more in the mode of goodness, be clean, be neat. I mean, you're going to get sick less. You're going to be healthier. You're going to have less health problems. Like, it's just all around, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, look at your average American. Like, we're overweight. We eat way too much nasty crap. We're drinking sodas out the wazoo. We're eating fast food. We're not exercising. We're living sedentary lifestyle. It's the mode of ignorance and the mode of passion.
Yeah.
Through and through. That describes America and the whole Western.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're
Obsessed
so
with trying to
advanced.
enjoy.
We're so like, okay, materially you consider this advancement, but like, what is real advancement? Like, we're finding ways to make the body more comfortable. Is really what we're doing.
Yeah,
But then how many people
so easily,
exactly how many people have mental issues or are strung out on drugs or are, can't hold together a functioning relationship or a functioning job because
I was gonna say people don't like to work
lost,
a lot of the
man.
times, but
people are lost.
But then, what are you? You're sitting at home and then you're bored. Like,
Yeah.
people work jobs they hate until they can retire, and then they don't have to do it themselves, and they wasted their whole life working at some
Or
job.
they've been so stressed out that by the time they're able to retire, they've had 3 heart attacks, and now they're in piss poor condition of health because they've been eating like crap for their whole life.
Well, that and
neglecting
also
the
when you're
body
miserable, it doesn't help.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't like what you're doing, and we've created a society that doesn't really encourage, on a wide scale at least, for people to actually find things they're good at and what they like for their propensity, whether they. It's like either
so
what
that
your
you're
parents
working a
want you to
career
do,
that you're just
or
like-
what your other family members want you to do, or what your friends tell you should do, or what you're doing. And like you said, if the people in your life that are giving you advice are also miserable or
And misled.
whatever, misled, have learned things from a teacher that is an alcoholic or whatever the case may be, you are just following bad advice, which is why there's
It's like
supposed
the
to be this
blind leading the blind.
Brahminical people, that well-educated, like people that aren't out for themselves in any way, shape, or form.
They should be giving you instruction because
Yeah.
they care about your own best interest.
Yeah,
not
and they're
because
not
you're
out
paying
for
them
anything
money.
for themselves. Yes,
Yes.
100%. It's just, it's an issue, and I don't know exactly. The solution, is simple in the sense that like you need people like that, but the not simple in the sense that I don't know how that would happen at this point in time, in this day and age.
A little bit at a time.
You have to be. A little bit at a time, and you have to just start that conversation and get people talking and looking inward and willing to see
it's really powerful if you
where they have to change things.
If you strive to live, the only thing you can really do is you only really have control over yourself. So if you try as an individual to live, like read some of these books, read some of the Eastern philosophy, because they tend to be more like, I've read the Bible. Jesus, I believe in him. I love him. I think he has so much wisdom to share with people.
Yeah.
The problem that I find with, the whole like westernized Christian religion, I'm not saying it's wrong, but it doesn't appeal to me because it seems to be more what I read Jesus saying and preaching, how to live your life with love, humility, simplicity, treat your neighbor, love thy neighbor like thyself. Like, that's what Jesus is saying. But yet the religious aspect of it tends to be more of this like, you should be good because otherwise you will burn in hell. So it's not fostering.
It's just the stick. There's no carrot.
Exactly. It's the stick with no carrot. But we should be living that way, not because we're scared of going to hell, but because that's just what we should be doing, because that's what makes you happy. You treating other people and loving them, and just like Jesus says, love thy neighbor like thyself.
Yeah.
Krishna says the same thing in the Bhagavad Gita. What's that verse? I don't remember the Sanskrit, but a learned sage sees with equal vision the dog eater, the elephant, the yogi, the whatever.
Yeah.
So they understand that within all living things is another spirit, another soul, another living entity. That's why we don't kill unnecessarily other animals. That's why we don't kill an animal to eat it, at least just to satiate our taste buds. Oh, it tastes so good.
If
I
you're
want
gonna
to kill it.
die,
Like,
then
but that's
you know,
another living thing. I
there's
mean,
things
you know,
that come into play if you're stuck in an island somewhere with no whatever, you know, like. But that's supposed to be the last resort at best.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you're, and then if you are going to do it, you should be doing it in a way like, you know, the Native Americans would do, where you hunt it and you kill it, and now, oh, I'm paying respects to this animal because it gave up its life so that I might sustain my own life. Like, but we've totally lost touch with that. Instead, we have lines of animals just going through, getting killed and slaughtered by it's barbaric.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying don't eat meat at all. Like, if you really got to do it, but like, educate yourself where it comes from. Educate yourself, like, as you're making purchases, like, you know, is this something that I really need? You know, is someone having to be exploited to give me this? I mean, like, God, our cell phones, I think about that a lot. I mean, I haven't bought one in a while, but, you know, I mean, so much exploitation goes into giving us all of the little trinkets that we carry around, and like, and we just kind of carelessly toss them aside as they're being used.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, it's ignorant. It's ignorant. Our whole society is based around ignorance.
Yeah.
And, you know, you just, like, oh, God. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of lack of open-mindedness, like you see in political, where everybody wants to scream, you know, extremes back and forth instead of just being willing to talk about it and try to find some common ground. Even the bigger leaders in their debates is mostly just dragging each other's name through the mud instead of
I know, it's ridiculous.
actually talking about things and be like, okay, well, this is why that won't work because we need to do XYZ thing, and if we do that, then this isn't, like, you know, like actually talking it through and finding like,
using
okay,
logic
oh, you make sense with that. Okay, well then what about with this then? Because that's not going to work for me, but maybe we can do this. Like actually talking. And it's never like that. It's like my way or the highway. It's like your way can't be the right way every time. It can't be.
That's so arrogant to think
None of
that,
us are like,
I'm going to be right. Like, what are we? We're just because we think we're so advanced, but like,
the reason we have a political system is because people have different ideals, and at different times they are, and different extremeness, they are correct in in that moment. Or for that period of time. It's like, if they were just wrong, why would they even be legal? Why would we have created a system like this?
Yeah.
If the other side is just always wrong. That would have been stupid. Like, really, the Founding Fathers were like, yeah, this is fine. Like, we'll just have stupid people on one side and all the right people on this side.
Yeah.
No. They had their own ideals, and they had beliefs, and they had a reason for them, and they talked this shit out. And you're supposed to be talking these things out, working through things, and like,
yeah, and then as society changes, it needs to be addressed. Like,
right, okay, things are different now.
Yeah.
When we talked about that was like, you know, 70 years ago. Technology wasn't like it is today. These things are different. Like all this, like there's so much. But the closed-mindedness, like curiosity, is a huge problem. Yeah. Nobody's curious anymore. Everybody wants to my way. I already know.
Why do we do that? We do it because that's what we've always done.
Right. It's like, well, okay, well, why are we doing it? Does it still work? When it was developed, what was the state of the world? Does it still make sense to do it? Do we need to adapt it? And then talking and explaining it to people, so people aren't just like, "How dare you change this? This has been okay." Well, hold on. The reason we're changing it is, you know, well, you go through like just communication and curiosity is such a problem in just widespread issue in corporations, in America, in other countries, just all over the world. It's a huge problem.
I think it goes back again to the education that we're not being sufficiently educated in
a lot of the teachers you have aren't
meaningful.
Curious. They're not worried. They're not trying. They're just coming in, clocking in, and clocking out.
We need 70% of our students to pass. So do anything you can
There's
to
great
get
teachers,
them to pass.
don't get me wrong.
No, there are, of course. I'm not saying that at all. But
there's people, just like there's people that come to work in a business that don't like the business. There's teachers that just somehow ended up being a teacher.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, they thought it's what they wanted. You see sometimes somebody's a teacher who just clearly just wanted to be a bully. They just wanted to control people. And they became a teacher because they like telling people what to do. That's not the purpose of a teacher. You're supposed to be, you're supposed to guide, you're supposed to instruct, but not in this weird control, egotistical thing that some teachers just have this, and actually a lot of teachers have that. It's like, you need to calm down. Like, this is not, like, that's not, but it's what is somewhat encouraged because it's the way the system has kind of adjusted. And it's just not based on the right things.
I mean, yeah, there's so much that goes into that, because then, a lot of those, I would say that when people start out wanting to be a teacher, they do it with a noble intention. I see
for
the
the
same
most
thing in
part, that makes
healthcare.
sense.
People start out because they like caring for patients, but then
See, that's
you
where,
can tell,
that's where,
if your
having
heart is
someone-
not in it 100% and you're thinking,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it'll be a nice job, or maybe part of you's doing it because you just want the recognition for it, or whatever.
the summers off, or whatever.
Whatever it is, but after
Yeah.
a while, when you really start to get in there and you realize like what you're actually signed up for, now that's when your commitment, did you really get in it
Sometimes
because you cared
can-
for the kids?
Sometimes you can
or-
switch or whatever, and you should if you're really unhappy. Find something else you want to do. But that's where having like an elevated person, someone who's very not doing things for their own good, then very well studied, very detached, could maybe help and be like, hey, I know you think you want to be a teacher, but from my perspective, seeing the things that you do and the way you are and interact with people, I think you'd actually be more well suited to be to work on a team with people like in a business setting and like manage adults.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd be best suited or whatever. That's one example of 1,000. But but the problem is sometimes the people that are telling us things like that are like someone who is jaded, has their own issues, and is
don't
like,
say it in a
you'll
nice
never be
way.
able to be what you want to be. You're not gonna be good at that. Just go work at the factory like me, or whatever the thing is. Like you have, and sure, they've been through crap. They have a reason for feeling that way. Maybe they had a dream that they never could be able to follow up on, or they feel like they would have been really good at this job and they got laughed out of the room. Who knows? But they are not giving you advice that's best for you. They're giving you advice about what this happened to them and what they think you should do, not what you should do. And it's hard to be, but there's not as many of those people in our lives. But having somebody like that who can actually help to guide you and help you to see the things that you're good at and pursue the right
That's true.
thing.
It's very important.
Because it's so easy to look at 2 to 3 facets of teaching. Like you get summers off. I like kids, and I'm good at math. Okay, cool. I'll be a math teacher. But then that's not all they require. That's not all. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of grading, detail orientedness. There's a lot of being able to adapt to sure you like kids, but have you ever dealt with 30 of them? Do you know how to deal with the different kids and their different propensities and their issues with each other and your own stresses in life? How much do you like kids? Do you like having that many, or is it you like 2? What's
Yeah.
There's just so much that you don't always fully completely flesh out before you jump into and then that's part of our education system. I think the fact that you have to go into so much debt to even attempt a job, back in the day when you had the what's it called? Internships made a lot of sense before school. If you could just go in apprenticeship, that's what I was looking for. Apprenticeship, going in and being a TA for straight out of high school, or maybe not straight out of high school, but at some point after high school, helping a teacher teach for 2 years. You would get so much of a better idea of oh, I hate this. I'm out after 6 months. Or oh yeah, I really do like this. And then sure, if the college system is going to train you up better or whatever, maybe you still have a couple classes you got to take, even though you have some real world experience. It's you're learning certain things in the classroom, but there's still some other things you're going to need to learn, by the book in the classroom setting. So now you're going to come into this other classroom where you're the student and you're going to do this 2-year degree to go with your lifetime experience or whatever to teach. Whatever the system is. But the problem is you go into someone's $100,000 of debt to get an English degrry that you're going to do what with?
Yeah, an art. I have an arts degree.
If you really like it, that's great. But you should be able to apprenticeship. Or first of all, I think education should be cheaper in the long haul. A lot of the schools that we use are basically hedge funds, and they're just financing the people that get paid a lot. They're doing a lot of just keeping money and investing it and getting returns, but all of that goes towards further investment. Very, very little that trickles
now
back
they're
into
just
the
chasing
system.
profits.
Right.
This is one thing that blows me away. You hear politicians on the right and the left, they say, national security, we need, a huge military budget. So, God, it's ridiculous how much we spend on the military.
Yeah.
I am all for military spending within reason.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. But when you are neglecting, and this is why I just can't take a lot of these politicians seriously, because it's clear to me that they don't actually look at, they're either just being outright dishonest, or they've literally never sat and thought it out.
Yeah.
Because you whine and go on and on about national security and how important it is.
Yeah.
I would say that far more important for national security than having a big, strong military. Yes, you do need a strong military. But what if you have a whole generation of kids growing up that are poorly educated,
Well, yeah, you got to watch.
what are they
going to
do?
What's happening?
The
people going into your
if all of the
military.
scientists and all of the smart, intelligent pilots and the the engineers and the other thing, if they're leaving to go work for other countries or whatever the case is, like America has poached so many people over the years, but now, like, we are being the victim of that same thing.
Yeah.
So we're not taking our education seriously, and that's why I think, like, the future of our country is a very precarious situation, because someday this generation is going to be the one leading. And if this generation is not being properly educated, or we're being educated to do things a certain way just because a small group of people is making a lot of money off the exploitation of that population.
Yeah, it's not good.
That someday down the road, our national security is going to be moot, because the people that are going to be in charge of everything are not even going to know how to properly run a functioning government.
Well, they're not
going to
know
how
when
to
the situation changes. They're going to have a checklist that doesn't work anymore.
Exactly.
And I
don't know what to do in this. There no critical thinking, no planning, no
Yeah.
So.
And it gets worse with every generation, because now you have parents raising kids that were trained that way.
Exactly.
So they are lacking in the proper training. And then so at home the kids are not getting proper training, and now they're going to school and they're getting improper training with the teachers too.
Yeah, it's a cycle that just
and it just gets worse and worse and worse, because then it's like they get even probably worse, and then even worse, and then even worse. And that's why sometimes you do hear when somebody had a really good teacher how much it changed their life. Mm-hmm. They finally found somebody who's actually meant to be a teacher,
like a half decent human
who was
being.
like wow, and like really like, especially if they had maybe a strange home life or not a good home life. They can really turn somebody's life around having one good teacher. Imagine if there was a proper system and you had all good teachers.
All good teachers.
Or at least 95% good teachers. Like, it would be amazing. But, yeah. Well,
I mean, there should be no such thing as a bad teacher.
Yeah. I mean, if they're just a straight up bad teacher, it shouldn't be a teacher anymore.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And now this is not to say to put it all on the teachers, because the problem is that the system...
The system doesn't reward good teachers.
The system doesn't reward good teachers. Exactly. And that's where...
You don't want to get paid
That's where the administrators are failing. They're failing. See, in Vedic culture, I've been reading the Mahabharata, like, religiously, or listening to it on audio book or whatever. Mm-hmm. The Kshatriya, the Brahmanas educated society, but they were renounced. They didn't do it for the money. They didn't depend on a paycheck. The Brahmanas that gave advice to the kings, they did not give... They gave advice for what they saw was best for the king and best for the country. They didn't do it because, if I say this and the king likes what I say, he's going to give me nice rewards. No.
Yeah.
They did it, and they remained true and fixed in morality. Mm-hmm. And because they were getting such expert guidance from morally fixed individuals, the kings carried out their duties morally. They treated all their subjects like children. They took care of everyone. They gave in charity. They collected taxes. And Yudhisthira, right, in the Mahabharata, he did sacrifices and all kinds of festivals. And when people would come, he would give in charity. People would bring him, other kings would come and bring him, tribute, and he would turn it around and give it to the Brahmanas. He would reward the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas would take what they needed to survive, and then they would in turn give the charity back to the king, or they would give it out to other people that were needy. Everyone shared, right? Mm-hmm. And the Brahmanas were taken care of in such a way that they never had to worry about, where's my food going to come from? How am I going to put a roof over my head? Yeah. The king's job was, the administrative class, their job was to ensure that the Brahmanas had everything they needed so that they could spend all their time and energy educating everybody.
Right,
and then
if
the Sudras understood
upon getting a result for their actions, then of course they're going to end up having to be looking out for themselves with the advice they're giving.
Yeah.
But if you're taking care of them no matter what the advice they're giving is, they can focus on real
Exactly. It's
real
impartial,
life.
right? Vidura would tell Dhritarashtra, dude, what you're doing is wrong, and I am not scared to tell you. I'm only telling you this because I'm giving you advice for your own good, blah, blah, blah. You don't want to take it, that's on you, but I'm telling you what is best for you.
Yeah.
And now, my God, the president...
You say the wrong thing, you get fired.
The president's people, or, whatever, what are they saying? They're all, oh, yes, Mr. President, it's the frickin', the king what do you call it? The emperor's new clothes, right? Everyone's running around. Oh yeah, look how good he looks. But it's like, dude, he's naked, man. But no one wants to admit it. And it's like, if that's the kind of people you have giving advice.
Yeah.
You're running the whole entire country you're running society into the ground.
Yeah.
And then you have, when everyone's being taken care of adequately, that's the government's job, is to take care of people.
Yeah.
And then in turn, when people are being taken care of and they know that their leadership actually has their best interest in mind, everyone's more productive. You know what? I'm being taken care of. And that's not to say that we should all be waiting for handouts.
No.
It has to be a symbiotic relationship.
Well, like they're all doing
Everyone
their job.
understands we are a little. This is my
Netflix.
part of society. Exactly. This
Right.
is my contribution. I'm the garbage man. Dude, the garbage man's an important member of society.
Yeah.
If I hate like when the garbage truck rolls by, I always tell my kids like, hey man, the truck's rolling up here to take out the garbage. I mean, I would, if I'm out there, I try to say thank you to them. Like, without them, what would we do? Our garbage would pile up. But then instead, people see them and the garbage guys. Man, that's a shitty job. Like, yeah, but who's going to do it? It's an important
Somebody's
job.
got to do it.
Who's going to do it?
Yeah, you need to have people doing all the jobs.
And,
all the jobs have to be filled.
Oh, the
can't
illegal
all be
immigrants
the
are coming
leader.
in and taking our jobs. What jobs are they taking? Yeah. They're going and picking vegetables that's going to go rotten on the trees because people think that's beneath them to go do that. But like you want all these things that society has to offer, the pinnacle of civilized, humanity.
Yeah.
But yet you don't want to actually put out any effort. You think that you should be able to hit a button and have everything just delivered to you and pampered.
There's roles that are played. Just like in a play, you need all the characters. You can't have only the king or only the star of the show. There are one-man shows, but you know what I mean. Like, you need the whole cast.
The supporting cast.
You need the people in the lights. You need the people that wrote the script. You need the people directing. You need everybody filling the roles, or else the whole story doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so you can't just live life like as if, one way or like my way or the highway. It's like, maybe that does work for you. It doesn't mean everyone else is going to do it. Mm-hmm. And maybe it does mean that sometimes you still have to take a little advice and adjust a little bit. Mm-hmm. But it's just very, very pointed. And in this day and age, I think it's very important that we start discussing that.
Where is our society headed?
Where are we going?
It doesn't. Clearly, the last few months have been more than enough evidence, I think, for people to start questioning, what are we doing wrong?
Yeah, some of us, not everyone.
Not everybody.
But
anyway,
we're approaching an hour,
so
let's get out of here, and hopefully we didn't offend anyone. I know we went off on a little bit of a tangent, but thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
I agree. All right, thank you guys.